tasya iha abhavat punah. Whatever you can fathom, whatever you can see, or whatever you can observe, that is only 1/4 of his magnanimous, huge, gigantic swarupa, embodiment. Whatever you can fathom is just one little. The other 3 parts, it is not, it is beyond your reach. There is even a Upanishad called Tripan Narayana Upanishad, which speaks about the other 3 parts which are beyond your reach. In that description of the Virat Purusha, we have a word which is called as Nakshatradi Rupam. Nakshatra is his Rupa. Then what is Rupa? If I ask you what is Rupam, you will say that a form which is visible to your eye. But there is something beyond this. Rupam also means the Svabhava. That is what the Kosha, the Nighantu says about it. I am not going to the details of all the, being a grammarian, I have a propensity to just go into the grammatics, so I am just resisting myself from it. See, Svabhava is called Rupa. The second one is Saundaryam is also Rupa. Rupavati or Rupavan means one who is beautiful, he is only called as Rupavan. Not one someone ugly looking, we don't call it as Rupavan. So Rupa, they essentially means Saundarya, the beauty. Of course, the inner beauty is appreciated, but here in this particular form, the effulgence of the stars, the Nakshatras, that is the beauty of the Virat Purusha. Just close your eyes, go to the dark, without the light pollution, go to some forsaken place where and open your eyes. The sight that you behold shall be cherished for the rest of your life. Those who have visited the Tibetan plateau will definitely vouch for this description and experience of mine. We had the blessing to spend starlit nights out in the plateau for more than 3 weeks. Nothing else. No vegetation, no trees, no artificial light. Only the natural lights from the stars. So that is the Nakshatradi Rupam. Once we have to cherish that means you have to imagine yourself and you have to experience that yourself. Due to the cause and factor of say this development, we have lost that beauty and we have lost the ability to witness that beauty and enjoy it. That's a misfortune actually. But here the Veda says Nakshatradi Rupam. Try to observe that. And the Aitareya Brahmana also has some. Aitareya Brahmana is aligned with the Rigveda Samhita. It says Tasma Dasau Arvang Tapati. He has given a different narration and reasons, but says Asau Arvang Tapati. The effulgence and the bright light of the sun is available to us down on this earth. Arvanchi Nakshatrani. Similarly, the Nakshatras are also visible down from the earth. Arvachi Ketaskadik Samyanchova Imeloka Samyancha Ete Trigaha Shrigai Dibyati Yaevam Veda. One who is able to witness all them, he will be prosperous. That is one from this thing. And in Atharva Veda, we have one verse from the Gopatha Brahmana. Yeva iha yajñairardhravan tesha betari Jyotisha. Whoever has conducted these virtuous rituals, their essence is in the form of these nakshatras. Yan yamoni nakshatrani tan nakshatranam nakshatratvam yannakshiyanti. Kshi has 2 meanings. One is to get destroyed. Here, nakshiyanti te nakshatra. One which does not get destructed is called the nakshatra. And with this to say, we are going to the Yajurveda's few important mantras. This is called the Nakshatra Ishtaka Upadhara mantras. The Mahagnichayana is a wonderful ritual. Thereby you are inviting every possible celestial divine force and you are representing them in the form of a brick. Ishtaka means a brick. That is very simple. Once you call invoke the Virat Purusha in his real form and full form, what are you doing? You just draw a paint and say, this is Krishna, this is Rama, this is Datta, this is Deity, this is Ma, Durga, Shakti. So we have some representatives. Similarly, the Vigraha, entire Vigraharadhana has its reference to the Ishtakopadhana. Here we have the Kritika Nakshatra. So starting with this, the 27 Nakshatras have been listed in one particular order, which is in the form of Nakshatra Ishtaka Upadhana Mantras. I will just recite them. Om Kritika Nakshatra Bhagdir Devata Agnerukastha Prajapater Dhatas Somaskirchetva Ruchetva Dyutetva Bhasetva Jyotishetva. There is a part called Anushanga, which is an attachment with all the mantras. The second one, Rohini Nakshatram Prajapatir Devata Mrugashirasham Nakshatragum Somo Devata Ardra Nakshatragum Rudro Devata Unarvasu Nakshatra Devata Tishyo Nakshatram Bruhaspatir Devata Ashresha Nakshatragum Sarpa Devata Magha Nakshatram Pitaro Devata Phalguni Nakshatra Margyama Devata Phalguni Nakshatram Bhago Devata Hasto Nakshatragum Savita Devata Chitra Nakshatra Vindro Devata Swati Nakshatram Vajur Devata Vishakhe Nakshatra Vindra Agni Devata Anuradha Nakshatram Vitro Devata Rohini Nakshatra Vindro Devata Vichruto Nakshatram Pitaro Devata Ashadha Nakshatra Vapo Devata Ashadha Nakshatram Vishve Deva Devata Shrona Nakshatram Vishnur Devata Shravishta Nakshatram Vasavo Devata Shatabhishan Nakshatra Vindro Devata Proshtapada Nakshatra Bhaja Ekapad Devata Proshtapada Nakshatra Bahir Buddhnigo Devata Revati Nakshatram Pusha Devata Ashvagajau Nakshatra Vashvinau Devata Apabharanir Nakshatram Yamo Devata Purna Paschadyate Deva Adadhu. These are the names of the Nakshatras as well as the presiding deities for all the Nakshatras. For your clarification, let me make it very clear. Nakshatra Mandala means the celestial body. Every celestial body has a presiding deity that is very important. That is the Nakshatra Adhidevata. Both of them are invoked in these mantras. Now, extending these mantras, there is something called as a Nakshatra Ishti Prakarana, which is very, very elaborate, and each of them will require at least half an hour to explain about each Nakshatra's characteristics and how the Ishti and the propitiatory rituals are performed. Without going into this, I will draw your attention to the another smaller ritual, which is it's also called as the Nakshatra Ishti only. But attached to this, there is an important chapter. The chapter is called as Anarabhya Adhita. Arabhya Adhita means it is concerned and connected with a particular ritual or a particular episode. And without that episode link, whatever is stated, that is called as Anarabhya Adhita. And Arabhya Adhita means if I am telling something in a particular context or an episode, it is only limited to this. Perhaps you may adopt the logic elsewhere, but Anarabhya Adhita means it can be adopted everywhere in your life. That is why it is called as Pumartha, for Purushartha. So this is from that Prakarana. In the second and third chapter of Taittiriya Brahmana, Prathama Kanda, there is the fifth chapter is called as Agneya Kritika. The second and third paragraphs of them are very important. This is about how to make use of the nakshatras, incidents and location in your daily rituals. This is most forgotten and unnoticed chapters of our ritualistic patterns as well as our daily practices, non-ritualistic daily practices. Because these days we are deprived from the benefit of the location of the nakshatra. We don't have the nakshatra darshana as well. In fact, What is the best time for Pratah Sandhya? Uttama Tarakopeta, Madhyama Lupta Taraka, Adhama Surya Sahita, Pratah Sandhya Tridhamata. There is no mention of Chandra. Uttama Tarakopeta, the best time is the Nakshatra Darshana. During the Nakshatra Darshana, when sun has not risen, even the Dwan has not set in, that is the best time to start your Pratah Sandhya. Just try this at least once a year. You know the power of it. Luckily, we are blessed with such an opportunities many times. Just wake up early in the morning. You have to be little early to the bed, that's it. The morning would be the best time to spend out, even for a few minutes. That is the best time. Now, this particular portion is included in all the important rituals of our household. You may not know. Have you heard of something called Punyaha Vachana? That's a purificatory ritual. Whenever there is a good or bad, any event, even housewarming, Graha Pravesha, we always do the Punyaha Vachana. What is Punyaha and what is Vachana? Punyaha is to declare as a sacred day. Declaration of a sacred day is Punyaha Vachana. Vachana means you are inviting few scholars who are declaring and concurring with your request. Okay, this is a good day to start this. That is Punyaha Vachana. In this, there is particular one section. Yat Punyam Nakshatram Tad Kurvitopa Vyusham Yada Vai Surya Udeti Atha Nakshatram Naiti. What is Punya Nakshatra? A meritorious nakshatra. Again, we get confused. If you are talking about a celestial body, an effulgence out in the sky, can it be bad and good? Is it really possible? How there can be bad light and good light? That would be the immediate question. When I say Dushta Nakshatra, when I say Shubha Nakshatra, how can this be Shubha and Ashubha? For this, the next paragraphs exactly deal with this thing. As you have in your daily life something beneficial and not beneficial, it is just like this. There are several objects in this world, several objects which are of quite some use to you, some are not, and you are oblivious to the existence of some of the beneficial objects as well. Is it not? It's true. Amantram Aushadham Nasti. Amantram Aksharam Nasti. Nasti Mola Manaushadham. Ayogya Purusho Nasti. Yojakas Tatra Durlabha. This is very important tenet of Dharma Shastra. Amantram Aksharam Nasti. Nasti Mola Manaushadham. Ayogya Purusho Nasti. Yojakas Tatra Durlabha. There are several objects and several types of persons in the entire universe. There are several words. There is no word which is not a mantra. There is no object which is not a medicine. There is no person who is called futile or useless. It all depends on the person who deploys whom, what, where. Yojakas tatra durlabha. Once you know what to make out of it, then you will be a successful entrepreneur. That's what it means. Similarly, the nakshatras are always good, but what is beneficial to this? Perhaps if I take a sari, that would be useful to my mother, but not to me. If I have gastric complaint, then if I take something pungent, that would not be good for me. If I am diabetic, I can take sugar, but that would be good for someone who is hypoglycemic. For them, it will be lifesaver. So what is beneficial, that has to be decided by the Jyotishika on the spot to suit the occasion. Now, if they have decided Yat Punyam Nakshatram, so this is beneficial to you, what are you supposed to do? There should be some itikartavyata, the procedure. How are you advised to take benefit of the particular nakshatra? That is what here it is. Tad but kurveta upavyasham. But kurveta. But means confirm it. How? Upavyasham. Before the ban, go out. And check its incidence and position and get yourself confirmed. Personally, I am not blessed with that such an opportunity with the either with naked eye or with a telescope, but I have seen people who can identify the star due to the shape also. When I say Mrugashirsha means there is a Mrugashira, something like this. I have seen people, even in our vicinity, who can just identify, okay, this is the nakshatra. And now it has become a speciality, but whereas it was a norm, whatever we call it as an exception, that was a norm in earlier days. Is it not? So, confirm whether that is the nakshatra. Then, once the sun rises, you will not be able to witness that particular incidence. Therefore, just mark that particular angle, position. Yavati tatra suryo gacchayet yatra jaghanyam pashyet. Jaghanya is the hitter yard, the backyard. So, if the sun is rising from the east and this particular nakshatra, what you are talking about, is in a south or west or north position, just make note of it. By the time the sun crosses that particular angle, you have to complete your ritual. Yavati kurtavati kurveta gatkari syat punyaha eva kurute. Therefore, the time between the sunrise and the time the sun crosses that particular transit point, the location, it is the punyaha. That is the definition of punyaha given here. So this is the Jyotisha prasiddhi, and for this the confirmation etc. that has to be begotten from the elders. Now the next one, how to imagine the Virat Purusha in the Nakshatra Rupa. Yo vai nakshatriyam prajapatim veda ubhayorenam dokayo or viduhu. One who can imagine the Virat Purusha in the form of the nakshatras, he will be well known both here in this world as well as the next. That is the meaning. How? Hasta eva syahastaha. The Hasta nakshatra should be deemed as the arms of Virat Purusha. Chitra shiraha. Chitra nakshatra is the shiras, the head. Nishtya hridayam. Nishtya means the Swati nakshatra, that is the heart. Uru Vishakhe, the thighs or Vishakha nakshatra. Pratisthanu Radha, the seat is Anuradha nakshatra. This is the one description of Virat Purusha in the Nakshatriya Sharira. One who has a habit of watching these nakshatras, he will be deemed, he will be famed in both these worlds. Because it is not important that I know Prajapati. It is important that Prajapati knows me and identifies me. That mention of Prajapati is beneficial to me. Let me give you a small example. It's not important that I know the Chief Minister or the Prime Minister of this country. If they know me and they recognize me, then it would be an accomplishment. So that's what we have to say. We have a specific instance. Prajapatin tva veda, Prajapatistvam veda, Yam Prajapatir veda sapunyo bhavati. Whoever is identified and mentioned and recognized by Prajapati, he is the meritorious one. This is from the Drashapurnamasa Prakarana. Now, what is the another significance of knowing the nakshatras? Veda gives you one tip. For our world to flourish, we need a family system where there is a proper marriage between suitable persons. And for this, the Kanyadana in the marriage is one of the important things. So when should we do this? Yan kamajet aduhitaram priyasyaditi tan nishtyajan dadyat priyaiva bhavati. If you want your daughter to be happy at the in-laws' home, make the Kanyadana, conduct the Kanyadana on the day of Swati Nakshatra. She will be very dear to the entire family and she will never return to your home with a sorry face. She will never return unhappily. This is one important suggestion given this thing. And there is also another suggestion. Abhijinna Nakshatram Uparishtada Shadhanam Avastha Charonaji. When we said there are 27 nakshatras, people think it's a laughable matter because our ancestors could not, they might just allude that our ancestors, our sages could not count more than that. No, that's not the case actually. What they meant exactly is, though there are several ministers in this country, several MPs in the country, the locally concerned officials are first identified by you and you have to be in good terms with them. Is it not? What is the use in pestering a Himachal Pradesh minister for your local job? You have to go to your local councillor. Similarly, the nakshatras which are in the close ambit and by whom we are getting affected positively, we have to take care of them. And in between, there is the twinkling little star. We also have other nakshatras. We have innumerable instances in the Vedic texts apart from this 27. One among them is called the Abhijin Nakshatra. What is it? Uparishtat Ashadhanam. After the Uttarashadha Nakshatra, before the Shravana Nakshatra, there is a twinkle. That particular time is called as the Abhijin Nakshatra. If you want to be victorious in your endeavors, in your campaigns, start on that particular day. That is what the deities have successfully done and you can follow their example. Anapajayyam eva jagati. Apajayyam, anapajayyam eva jagati. There are two types of targets in our campaigns. One which is achievable, the second one is only for record's sake. We always want something. Even those positions or objects which are beyond our reach, there is no harm in coveting that. But there are some important objects which are certainly well in our reach, because of setting the target and setting the goal is very important. That's why in many Vedic texts it says Samanana Uttama Shloko Astu. He should be the best among his lot. If I am competing with someone, I should compete someone in my literary circle. I should not be competing with Vladimir Putin or Biden. There is no point in it. Samanana Uttama Shloka. Similarly, whatever is achievable in your ambit, you should certainly try it and start your campaign in Abhijin Nakshatra. That is one important suggestion given here. And another one, if you are planning to start anything which is concerning with the Pashu Sampad, the cattle, the dairy industry, etc., Revati Nakshatra is suited for this thing. And it also gives one instance where there were many cattle which were acquired during other nakshatras and the number could not be increased. But the cattle which was acquired, cattle means not exactly the bovine only, but any animals, they had marked their increased presence earlier. Therefore, that is prescribed. Now, we have the next one. Deva Nakshatra and Yama Nakshatra. This is one important criteria. What is this? Deva Gruha Vai Nakshatrani Ya Evam Veda Gruhyeva Bhavati. The nakshatras are the abodes of the celestials. One who can identify them with this thing, he will have a magnificent home. How? Okay. Now, Yani va imani prithivyash chitrani tani nakshatrani tasmad ashlilana magis chitre navasyet najajeta yatha papahe purute tadrugevatat. We have several auspicious and inauspicious things, objects around us. Among them, whatever we deem as beneficial, we always look at them for your benefit. Similarly, observe these nakshatras for your own good. And Deva Nakshatrani va Anyani, Yama Nakshatrani Yanyani. There is one group of 14 which is called as Deva Nakshatra, and the second group is called as Yama Nakshatra. Why? The first one among them is Krittika Prathamam Vishakhe Uttamam. Starting with Krittika till Vishakha Nakshatra, These 14 are considered as Deva Nakshatras. Why Deva Nakshatras? If you want to conduct any ritual, try to conduct them during the incidence of these Nakshatras. There is something called as Kritika Karte, Rohini Karte, Mrigashira Karte. In Andhra they call it Karte. It has something around the entire 360 days is divided into 27 parts, and each of them is that they are connected with the transit of Surya. So among them you have to calculate our conduct of rituals. And Anuradha Prathamam Apabharani Ruttamam, starting with Anuradha Nakshatra, ending with Apabharani, they are called as Yama Nakshatras. And among the Yama Nakshatras, the Abhijit is also among them. If you count that as well, it will become another group of 14. And why are you calling them as Deva Nakshatra and Yama Nakshatra? Because those who are on the northern hemisphere, they are called as Deva Nakshatra. Yani Deva Nakshatrani Tani Dakshidena Pariganti Yani Yama Nakshatrani Tam Yuttarena. Those nakshatras which are transiting from north towards south are called as Yama Nakshatras. It is the reverse for Deva Nakshatras, from south to north. Now, the naming convention for them is also very important. We have thought little about it. For this, there is a beautiful story. Once there was a battle royal between Deva and Asuras. In them, whatever has happened on the incidence of the particular nakshatra, the Devatas and the Rakshasas have named them after that particular nakshatra. The nakshatra is named after that particular incident. How? Let me say. Anveshamarat smeti tadanurādhāha anu aratsma. Once the battle surged, the preparations were under. Once the preparations were complete, they said, okay, we are ready to declare the war. That Anuradhi is called as Anuradha Nakshatra. And they have determined that Jyeshtha Mesha Mavithishmeti, the head of the Asura Sena, Danava Sena, has to be killed. That declaration was made on the day of Jyeshtha Nakshatra. Therefore, that nakshatra was called as Jyeshthaghni. Among the Jyeshthaghni, the Ekadesha means one part of the entire name is taken, and that was given to the name of one nakshatra, because on that particular day that declaration was made. And Mola Mesha Vavrkshameti, once they have decided, the deities have decided to terminate the entire township of the Rakshasas, Mola Varahana, that day, on the day of Mola Nakshatra. Therefore, it is called as Mola Varahani. In short, it is called as Mola. And the valor and the tenacious efforts of the deities, they were not bearable. On the day they have declared, oh, it's unbearable, unbearable. That unbearable is Ashadha. Therefore, they are called as Ashadha Nakshatra group. And Shrona Sanghate, Shrona is a dhatu, and Sanghate, they have piled up their forces and they have started their campaign, and that day is called as Shrona Nakshatra. And they have, the Rakshasas have understood and they have listened to the about the campaign of deities on the day of Dhanishta Nakshatra. Therefore, it is called as Shravishtha. Shravishtha is the Vedic name for Dhanishta Nakshatra. And in one such battles, hundreds of deities were injured, but all of them were effortlessly treated. Yet Chatababhishajyan, Tat Chatabhishak. On that day, hundreds of them were treated effortlessly after annihilating the Shatrus, the enemies. Therefore, it was called as Shatabhishak. And the day of raising their arms to start the campaign, that was Proshtapada Nakshatra or Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra. Therefore, they are called as Proshtapada. And all their with this campaign, unbearable to the onslaught, the Rakshasas were actually screaming, Aravanta. That scream, the day of that scream is called as Revati. And Ashvajajo Rahinjata. To start their campaign, they were tying the horses to the chariots on Ashvajuk. Ashvayojana means setting up the Ashvas, the horses to the chariot. That is called as Ashvayuk. And the day of finally exterminating the entire enemy force, that was Apabharani. They were actually annihilated and the lives were exterminated. That is called the Apabharani. Since Anuradha is the start day of the campaign and Apabharani is the day of slaying, these are called as Yama Nakshatras. Therefore, you do not conduct the rituals in these particular Nakshatra period. Normally, the Deva Nakshatra period is the Uttarayana and the Yama Nakshatra period is Dakshinayana. That is the reason there are no rituals during the Dakshinayana. Now, before concluding, I will just draw your attention to a couple of more points. In Atharva Veda, we have certain references about the planetary influences. Because in other Veda Shakas, we don't have these references about grahas. Because the lateral astronomical texts, they are more talking about the grahachara. There is very little emphasis and research on the Nakshatra Jyotisha. The original Jyotisha Shastra was more about the Jyotis, the celestial bodies of Nakshatras. But now we are in the phase of analyzing the transit of grahas and what to derive from these things. I will call upon one of our students from the Atharva Veda section. They will recite the mantras of these Nakshatra and Graha Shanti. Om Imani Yani Panchendriyani Manashasthani Me Hrudi Brahmana Samshitani Yaireva Sasruje Ghorantaireva Shanti Rastunaha Shanno Avitra Shambaroda Sham Vivasvan Shamantakaha Utpada Parthivan Tariksha Shanno Divichara Graha. First we have the Divichara Graha. This is the one particular instance because Graha, the name Graha is used in a different context in Yajurveda and other Vedas. But Divichara Graha is the exact context of the Navagrahas that we are talking about. The number 9 is not given, but Divichara Graha is one important reference. Om Shanna Bhomir Shanna Bhomir Urvepyamana Shamulka Nirhatanchayata Shanga Bonohi Takshira Sambho Viravatir. This is the particular stanza which is dealing with the earthquakes. Bhumir Vepyamana, the tremors that are happening at the crust of the earth, and the ulkas, the comets, which are negatively affecting the world. The asteroids, because NASA has a mission of hunting down the asteroids that are likely to harm this planet. So the mantras are particularly talking about this thing. Sambhovi Ravatirgati, Avadirgati, the comets or the asteroids that could potentially damage the earth by dividing it. So we always pray that God spares us from such a catastrophe. And Nakshatra Bulka Vihatam Shapastu Nashanno Abhika Shamo Santa Pratyaha Shanno Nikhata Valga Shamulka De Eshopasa Shamuno Bhavantu Shanno Graha Ashchandramasa Shama Adityascha Rahuna Shanno Mrityardhomake Ekasham Stigmate Ejasaha Chandramasa Graha. Graha also is a planet and also a satellite, and Chandrapasagraha means the satellite planets and as well as the planets, and those who are interfered by celestial incidences such as Rahu and Mrityu in the form of Dhoomaketu. Let us get spared from this. Shamrudra Shambasa Vashama Aditya Shamadaya Shanno Maharshaya Deva Shamdeva Shambruhaspatihi. All the Maharshis and Devas, especially Bruhaspati, the preceptor of the deities, let all of them bless us for a beneficial and safe world. With these mantras, we are concluding this thing. There are several aspects that are worth our research. The incidence of several Ulkapata and Upadrava, the natural calamities, when are they happening? And if we make a list of them when they are happening, then we can very easily correlate with the astrological predictions and the scriptural references. And there is plenty of scope in this particular aspect which can definitely positively help the entire mankind. With this to say, we conclude this evening. Mangalam Mahat Swastik Pradabhyah.